Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Robert Baylor, Director of Communications at NUCA. Welcome to our latest webinar Wednesday, sponsored by NUCA's sustaining partner, Assignar. First, before we begin, some webinar housekeeping for attendees. Today's webinar will be recorded. It will be available on NUCA's YouTube channel that can be accessed via the front page of NUCA.com. All participants are muted upon entry. Phone participants can use *6 to mute and unmute themselves. Questions will be asked at the end of the presentation. To ask a question, you can submit a written question at any time using the chat feature, and I'll read them at the conclusion of our discussion. Now let's get started. Construction runs on routines, scheduling crews, logging timesheets, submitting invoices, chasing approvals. However, disruptions to everyday tasks often create delays, disputes, and manual processes that slow down and squeeze margin. In today's webinar Wednesday, we will watch how contractors are turning the weekly and monthly routines into repeatable wins, less admin, stronger compliance, and faster cash flow. From the field to finance, we'll examine the apps that can connect your daily workflows into a single platform, giving you faster, more accurate, and more transparent processes. Our presenters will be Assignar's Matthew Pircon, Senior Director of Revenue, and Anthony Salvatore, Solutions Engineer. Matthew, I turn the webinar over to you.
Hey, thank you, Bob. I appreciate you putting this all together for us. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Building Better Routines, Connecting Operations and Finance. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment and thank NUCA for hosting this session and for bringing contractors together to share ideas like this. It doesn't happen enough. We're excited to show you how contractors are modernizing their most critical workflows from the field all the way to finance. So to start with some quick introductions, I'm Matthew Pircon, and I work every single day with contractors to hear simple challenges and overcomplicated challenges. Things from scheduling, compliance, billing, and all the way to payments. Joining me today is my partner, Anthony Salvatore. He's one of our tried and true tenured sales engineers who have spent years in the industry helping teams simplify how the work gets done. Together, I'm going to talk about a common issue in the industry, and we're going to show you how Assignar brings your field and office routines into one connected system. We believe construction runs on routines, but too often, those routines are fragmented or manual. Our goal today, show you how you turn those same routines into your competitive advantage. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to talk about the routines you rely on every single day and why they sometimes become roadblocks to getting paid, staying compliant, or finishing the week without a headache. Then we're going to show you how Assignar reimagines those routines, connecting your field and your office teams so you can run leaner and smarter. After that, we're going to jump into a live demonstration where you'll see how Assignar manages everything from contracts and scheduling to field data capture and accurate invoicing all in one platform. Lastly, we're going to wrap up with some Q&A. So if a question pops up into your head along the way, add it to the chat and we'll be sure to answer it at the very end. So let's get started. To be honest, we see construction running on routines every single day. But for most finance and operations teams, those routines aren't always holding the rhythm. Think about a typical morning. Before you're even on the job site, you're probably looking at your cash flow, your cash on hand, you're looking at your unpaid invoices, you might be scanning the payroll hours. But by the time you've hit your desk or even opened up the door to your truck, you're juggling more balls up in the air and wearing more hats than you can count. You're a strategist, you're a problem solver, you're a firefighter, you're a detective. And yet, yesterday's problems are still sitting there waiting for you. Your progress claims are delayed or incomplete. Timesheets don't line up with the cost codes. Payroll disputes are holding up every single approval. Compliance documents are buried across systems. In the field and the office, they're rarely working off the same numbers. These routines should be simple. They're the heartbeat of the business. Instead, they slow projects down. They squeeze your margins. And most importantly, they're straining your relationships internally. The reality for many contractors today, working harder and harder just to keep up, but never quite catching up. I'm hearing that every single day. So I think you're all familiar with these daily and weekly, monthly routines. They keep the business running. But even if one of them slips, everything else gets disrupted. So what if these routines didn't hold you back? What if they actually worked for you? That's exactly where Assignar is coming in. We help contractors turn everyday routines into repeatable wins. Here's how it works. From a daily perspective, field data like hours and cost codes flow straight into payroll, compliance, and claims. There's no detective work, there's no double entry. On a weekly basis, finance and PMs look at the same dashboard, no stale spreadsheets, and no surprises piling up at the end of the month. On a monthly basis, your payment claims, your job costing, and your forecasts are staying in sync. Month end goes from a scramble to a strategic moment. The result, less admin, faster cash flow, and more confidence in the numbers you rely on to run the business. Assigner isn't going to replace your routine, it upgrades them. We connect your field and finance teams so that you can spend less time chasing paperwork and more time leading projects forward. Let's step back and look at how Assigner fits in with the project lifecycle from a moment a contract is awarded, all the way to getting paid. In construction, how you start a job has everything to do with how you finish it. Because if you don't follow the contract to the letter, guess what? You're not getting paid. Think of it like a game. The rules aren't yours to make. They're already set in contracts, compliance requirements, and rate sheets. Your job is to play smart inside those rules. The challenge here, without clear guardrails, it's easy to step out of bounds, miss one compliance doc, or apply the wrong date, lose a sign-off, and suddenly you're stuck fighting over payments months later. That's not a good place that you want to be. So when the contract is awarded, this is your chance to set the rules from right from the start. Assigner structures complex contracts, your schedules of value, your time and material rate cards, and compliance requirements on day one. So contractors are typically telling us uploading a PDF contract and letting Assigner parse it saves me about half a day per job. That's insane. As work gets executed, field data flows in through mobile forms, timesheets, safety checks, daily logs, all tied back to the contract rules that you set at the beginning. Assigner operations keeps crews compliant and gives everyone real-time visibility, while Assigner pay automatically calculates the costs and gets them ready for payroll. No rekeying, no manual steps. When it's time to check, before invoicing, everything is crystal clear. Operations sees what's been done and by whom, all from a single dashboard. Assigner pay cross-checks what work has been completed against the contract, so invoices match exactly. No delays, no disputes, no back and forth, no work stuck in limbo. And then finally, closeout is clean. Operations captures final field data, completion status, your compliance documents. Nothing falls through the cracks any longer. Assigner pay finalizes billing automatically. It applies the retainage, and it syncs with your ERP so payments move fast and stay accurate. Assigner pay and operations doesn't replace your finance stack. They work alongside it, feeding it clean, connected data without duplicate entry. Instead of a scramble at the finish line, Assigner keeps compliance and accuracy in check from start to finish. And when your field and finance teams are that connected, projects just don't finish, they finish stronger. So I'm going to stop here. I want to pass it over to the man, the myth, the legend, our solution expert, Anthony.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Matt, for the intro.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Trying to figure out the hard part here and sharing my screen. Matt, just a quick vision test. You got my screen, my mouse move. Okay.
You're good, sir.
Awesome. So, a lot of detail, a lot of good info, a lot of common themes and common problems that we've heard that we're looking to solve here with the Assigner pay and operations platform combined together. As Matt mentioned, I'm going to go through the demonstration. It should take about 25 minutes or so here. If you have questions as I'm going through, feel free to add them to the chat, and we'll make sure that we address any and all questions toward the end once the demo is complete. So without further ado, This is the home screen of Assignar Pay. So in an environment where you would have Assignar Pay and Assignar Operations side by side, your day would sort of start and end within the Assignar Pay side, and I'm about to explain what that workflow looks like. First thing that we would do within Assignar Pay is we would connect it to your operations database if you're using both. If not, Matt mentioned Assignar Pay can be used as a standalone product as well. Once you connect it to your Assignar operations database, we will bring forward and sync up all the data that you need. So your active customers, your projects, work orders, all materials, cost codes, all that stuff that you need will be an exact match between both sides. And then one of the things you'll notice here is this is where we're now introducing AI as a co-pilot. So Matt had touched on it. We can see it live in action now. Not replacing the need for humans, but doing a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting, and then trusting but verifying, what that AI is doing for you here. So one of the first areas where that AI is visible and kind of comes into play here is right at the beginning. Matt was discussing, once you're awarded a job, you have all these contracts, all these, PDF files, lengthy documents, things like that. Well, you can add whatever you need to here and upload it right off the bat once you're awarded the job within Assignar Pay, and then you can interact with those documents. So imagine the power of loading up a contract, loading up a schedule of rates, payroll documentation, things like that, and then being able to just simply come in here periodically or whenever questions come up and ask questions. So it's just a simple example. I have a document tied to a project and, I'm the project manager here. I want to know some details about overtime. I'm looking to, kind of save some hours here. I just simply pointed to the document, asked a simple question, and then it gave me a nice summary in the matter of 30, 60 seconds here. And, this information could be on pages 35 through 41 kind of thing in a lengthy document. So, just working truly smarter, not harder, using AI as a co-pilot, interacting with your documents, saving you time, each time that you need to find out an answer or dive in further. So that's kind of step one. I would say step 1A is then take other things that you have, other documentation like schedule of rates, your invoice, your billing rates here, and you can load those directly into Assignar Pay using AI to build out your rate tables. So just as a quick example here, you can have a global set of rates, kind of a default catch-all for everything. If there isn't a specific set of rates, you can have customer-specific rate sheets, even a project. One project, one rate sheet used one time. We got you covered there. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're taking PDF files, Excel spreadsheets, whatever format you have, and you're uploading them within the system. And we're using that AI is using that to build out your rate tables. So this is nothing more than a PDF that has regular time, overtime, double time rates for invoicing. It even has clauses, certain hours of the day, certain, days of the week, things like that. AI is smart enough to accept and interpret all of that detail. And then ultimately, we're building out a set of rates that's going to be there for us and ready for us when it comes time to invoice. So just as a quick example, you can have equipment rates broken down. This is weekly rates, weekend rates, holiday rates. I can have labor rates based on what role I am, what type of, labor rates, supervisor rates, foreman rates. All your special terms and conditions have been detailed out here, as you can see. And then if I scroll down, I don't mean to scroll too much on you, we can start to get into kind of those additional details. So I have an LOA, I have a materials here that come over from operations that I want to mark up at a certain cost plus in order to give me my pricing for my invoicing. Other things like service fees, etc. So we load up your contracts, we load up your schedule of rates, we kind of set it and forget it. We come back here as we need it. And now when information comes over from Assignar operations, you're simply matching up to these rates as you're creating and generating your invoices. So that is sort of where things start in an environment where you have Assignar Pay and operations side by side. We are going to pause here for just a few minutes, go into the operations side, and then we'll come back here and show you how to take timesheet details and turn them into an invoice. So once you have everything loaded up, it's time to start managing your day-to-day operations. So this is the home screen of the Assignar operations side. This is the area where you would come in to set up all of your new work orders and schedule all of your workers. You can then set up and have filled out any electronic forms that you would have out there in the field, and then timesheets come in from the mobile app or from the field that go through an approval process before they're sent back over to the Assignar pay side. So home screen of Assignar operations just gives you sort of a bird's eye view of what's going on across the board as far as your operations are concerned. So how many workers or employees do I have actively assigned to jobs or scheduled today? Same thing here for your equipment. This is a daily tally as timesheets come in from the field. So we'll happy to get into discussions about what your internal approval process looks like. Who's next in line with that hierarchy. We'll certainly match that level of approval for you folks. And then the activity feed is just a chronological list as things happen and change within your database. So you can see the status of your jobs changing in the schedule. This is you communicating, releasing information to the field. You can see all sorts of forms that are coming in here. Safety meetings, JHAs, equipment inspections. If you're filling out something using a separate app or paper today, there's probably a good spot for it within the Assignar Forms module. Lastly, here on the home screen, anywhere you are, you'll see these three icons. This represents alerts and notifications for anything compliance related. So all of your workers can have their own profile in the system, and you can manage licenses, certifications, qualifications, when things may expire. And then we have another bucket for things that are past due. So again, Matt and I here, we got another system. We have a spreadsheet. We have a filing cabinet that we're using to manage these things. Good spot to centralize it and bring it all under one umbrella here within Assignar operations. Last thing I'll just mention, I'll show you an example in just a moment. These can also become requirements when you're scheduling. If you require a certain level of license or compliance, we give you that visibility so that you're making sure that you're selecting the appropriately compliant licensed workers. Rounding this out, we have alerts and notifications for equipment here as well. So anything equipment maintenance wise, so like vehicle tags, registrations that may expire. We also can set up recurrence. So like, my 3,000 mile oil changes, my recurring services, we can notify you as things are due by filling out a form and capturing those meter readings. And then lastly here, anything tied to the customers or the jobs that you're working on, permits, non-disclosures, some sort of document, good spot to centralize it here, again, within one system. So that's just a little bit about operations, why you would be coming in here and what we're managing. The first main area within Assignar operations is the centralized scheduler. So this is designed to kind of be a one-stop shop where you can set up new jobs, new work orders here right on the fly. You can then assign your workers and equipment to those jobs using drag and drop. And I'm going to show you what our recommendation looks like in just a moment. And then you communicate, you notify your workers using SMS text messaging right here from the schedule without bouncing around to different areas. Flexible screen here, we want it to kind of be you to be able to adjust the screen based on the situation at hand. Short-term, long-term planning. We have a week view. We can zoom right into 2 days as you're kind of managing, shuffling people around today and tomorrow, all the way up to a longer range, more planning view at 6 months at a time. So you can plan, schedule, add things to your calendar as far in advance as you need to, and then all of the history stays within your schedule as well, so you can take a look back as needed. On the left-hand side, just in today's example, this is an example of a job number, a project ID that would be matching to your accounting or ERP system. And then we have the scopes of work, the activities that we're performing here. We load up the work order with the information that we want the workers in the field on the job to see. And then it's what resources do we need in order to appropriately staff our crews across the days and the hours. So just in today's kind of simple example, I have 3 days left on this job. I have not yet assigned an excavator and an operator. I have assigned a foreman and a truck and a few laborers. Green is good, red is bad. So the scheduler is designed to be easy to digest, easy to understand, and easy to find those gaps or holes where you might be missing something. So when I'm ready, if I want to schedule an excavator and an operator, you can do so daily. We have a lot of customers that have more consistent crews that might want to schedule the entire job and then make adjustments as needed. As soon as I select something here to be scheduled, the system is going to recommend workers who are available that match the job title, in this case, only available excavator operators, and then warn me if someone is out of compliance. So if I really wanted to use Billy here, what's up with him with this signal? Well, I can see Billy either had and it's since expired, or he's just straight missing the operating certificate required to fill that role within the schedule. So that's just a good example of how we can help manage compliance person by person and then give you the visibility as it's required before you assign workers to a job. As far as our recommendations, we do the same thing here for equipment. So it's recommending our available excavators, and then I can link operators and people together. I select the piece of equipment, and then I choose my blue checkmark qualified worker. I'll grab Bob here, click, drag, and drop. The icons turn green, and now I'm confident that I've fully staffed my job based on what I said I needed originally. So that is just a little bit about the lay of the land, the schedule, kind of the details of recommending the appropriate worker and piece of equipment or asset. I would call that kind of the front end, the first half of the schedule here. The second half is the details that we add in the schedule is great for you guys, the dispatchers, the office folks to see. It also becomes the information you communicate with the field workers using the mobile app. So they're going to know customers, job numbers, dates. The physical address here of the job can turn into a hyperlink where you tap on to get turn-by-turn directions. You can just put longitude, latitude coordinates in there as well if you don't have a formal address. Anything at all that you type in the description becomes a note, a detail, a comment that the workers in the field see. We're not reinventing the wheel, just simple, effective communication between the schedule and the mobile app users. On the right-hand side, you see these list of roles. I should have mentioned in the beginning that these descriptions are totally built for you folks. This is just an example to get your brains thinking about maybe what your setup might look like. But where things really start to come together is we're tying the role to the forms that we want to require on the job for the day. So what I'm saying is whoever I assign as the foreman, it's that person's responsibility to fill out the daily job report, the safety meeting toolbox talk in the morning, the injury report if something happens. However, whoever I assign as the excavator operator, it's that person's responsibility to fill out the equipment pre-check form. So you can personalize who sees what and who's required or whose responsibility it is to fill out these forms by achieving a setup like you're seeing here within the schedule. Another thing worth mentioning that comes together here are your quantities and your cost codes that you'd like to track within schedule. So this could be a list of item quantities with units of measure, a list of cost codes, depending on how you guys think when you're tracking your jobs. You can import them in from an external source, a spreadsheet, and this gives you the ability to track quantities complete tied to your units of measure, so you'll know billable quantities and or percentages. Sometimes, once I'm 50% complete, I can bill for half of that item. We give you that capability and that visibility very easy by recording quantities each day out there on the field as a foreman or a supervisor using what we call site diary. And I'll show you more on that in just a minute. So this is our progress tracking, quantity tracking that can be used especially to feed billing and invoicing. Last but not least, documents, anything that you attach here within the schedule, you're one tap away from viewing out there in the on the mobile app in the field. So drawings, plans, you see the examples here. Do what makes sense. It just avoids separate emails and disconnected information. So that's the details that we add to the scheduler here that feed the mobile app. And then the final step, guys, is once you have your resources assigned. You have all the information you need in the work order. The final step is to come in here and communicate. Send your SMS notifications directly from the schedule to your workers that are out there. During the onboarding implementation process, we're going to make sure that all of your workers have valid mobile numbers, so it'll be in the system right off the bat. And then we can create what's called an SMS text template, so you don't have to type out the message. So this template automatically pulled some job level information here, dates, things like that. And then most of our customers choose for convenience to include a hyperlink here that each worker in the field will tap on, and it'll bring them right from the SMS text into the mobile app, viewing the details of their assignment. So simplicity. We load up the work order here, we send a text and give them a link to log right in and view all their details in the mobile app. We want to make that transition as simple as possible as far as our communication. So that's the schedule, guys. I do want to now pause for a moment here. At this point, we've set up the schedule. We've notified some workers. Now we are ready to go into and spend a couple of minutes looking at the Assignar mobile app side within operations. So this is, I call it a simulator here that we're looking at. It's mobile.assignar.com, but it's the same look and feel if you were using an Android or an Apple device. It's the same look and feel. This is the Assignar mobile app. When you click on the hyperlink, you're going to be brought to a daily view here. I'm logged in as Anthony the foreman today, and I can see a view of all jobs that are assigned to me as an individual. I have a quick button to create my timesheet or my site diary as a foreman, and then any form that's required, there'll be a quick reference to it right here. So personalized based on who I am and what my responsibilities are. I tap anywhere here on screen, and the information we just saw a minute ago within the schedule is the same information that I'm seeing now in the field on the mobile app within my assignment. So I have dates and times and my address here with the hyperlink to bring up my GPS. If I scroll down, I can see comments. Again, simple but effective means of communication. As I scroll down here, forms. And today, one form is required, but maybe tomorrow I might require multiple forms. Do what makes sense, day over day, job over job. And then attachments, drawings, plans, as I mentioned, nothing fancy here. I just didn't have to stop what I'm doing and go find the email that I probably lost or deleted. Puts everything in one simple, convenient area for you. So that buttons up that communication between the schedule and the mobile app users. At this point, I'm Anthony the foreman. I can fill out timesheets, a site diary for the crew, and I can fill out the forms that are responsible for me and submit the completed package back to the office here. Understand that you can do a combination of individual and crew-based foreman level data capture. I'm going to click into Site Diary today to show you capturing timesheets, progress materials for the entire crew for the day. If you need individuals, happy to have that discussion and show you around, during a call or a demonstration. So please let us know. Now, the beauty of Site Diary is it's directly connected to the schedule. I'm Anthony the foreman. I click Add Timesheets here, and I can see the crew that's assigned to me. Operators, laborers. If someone doesn't show up, I can adjust it and get it right. I can delete people. I can add people. It just gives me that advantage because it comes directly from the setup and the assignments in the schedule. When I say next here, we're breaking up our hours into cost codes. So this is a simple 7 to 5 against excavation. If you guys have a list of, job specific cost codes, we can give you a simple filtered list like you see here. We can also load up your master list of cost codes if you guys need overhead accounts for separating shop time, travel time, or drive time on top of your job specific cost codes. We can break up hours however you'd like to here very easily. And we can even do breaks, paid or unpaid. So there's a lot we can talk about. If you're interested, would love to see an example of how you're doing it today to talk through how we can match that detail, but give you just a more efficient workflow here. Next, the equipment that comes from schedule comes over automatically here. Same thing. I can swap it. I can add more, delete from it if something new does show up. It just, again, defaults to what's scheduled today. And then the last screen here, anything else for payroll to make that more accurate and complete. Per diems, meal stipends, things like that are very common. We can supplement, add those to your timesheets before we communicate with your payroll system. So that's it. That's just a real quick and dirty 3 or 4 mouse click. I'm creating timesheets now for 5 individuals. If I'm a supervisor and a foreman and don't need individual involvement, that's essentially the simplistic workflow that we're looking at here using Site Diary. I do have the ability to click on an individual and make adjustments. If Mike here left early, I can adjust his time down, add a note here for payroll, whatever it is. I don't have to build the timesheets from scratch each time. That's the message. That's the simplified workflow here. So that's just a little bit about how to create timesheets based on who's part of your crew from the schedule. We then have the ability to capture job progress. So if I come in here, this is a recommended job-specific list of the quantities, the cost codes, the units of measure that we're capturing here. So we can really personalize this and make it easy to select, what we're working on today. And then here, within each cost code, I have the ability to enter the number of units that I've completed, or I can keep it simple and just enter a ballpark percentage. We did about 25% today. As soon as I say that we did another 1,000 cubic yards, for example, with excavation, I can add notes and comments, but I'm seeing immediate feedback as to what have I done so far, what do I have left and remaining, and how far along are we as far as percentage complete. So each day your foremen are capturing these daily quantities and it's accruing those so you can see how far along are you, what do you have left. I'll just add 150 feet here. And then once I hit save, here's an example of that immediate feedback. Now I didn't take the time to add notes or photos. I'll show you what a completed package looks like in just a moment, but that's visibility into where did we leave off, what did we do today, and what do we have remaining each day as a foreman or supervisor using the Site Diary. From here, we can capture materials, notes, and photos, and then these additional questions can be configured if there's other things on your timesheets, like did you do any extra work outside of scope? Is the job complete, yes or no? Anything else on your overall daily reports that's important, we can add right here and require, if you need it, your foreman to fill them out. And then here's my hour by hour weather conditions. So I'm the foreman. I've filled out the bulk of this thing. I am ready to sign and submit. But once I do that, wait a minute, hold on. The software is stopping me because I have not filled out my required form based on the schedule. So if you remember in the schedule, I was required to fill out the daily job report. I was about to submit my Site Diary with timesheets without filling that out. The beauty of this workflow is it brings you right to these forms. It auto-populates information that it already knows from the schedule. And then all you have to do is finish filling out all the required fields here, sign and submit, and then you complete the process. So this is just an example of a form that we can set up with you guys. We can do radio button, single selection, multi-selections, or drop downs. So we'll take a look at your forms and we'll come up with the best, most efficient way to fill these things out to keep it simple for the folks in the field. We can set up conditional questions. So if I say that yes, there were visitors, now you're required to tell me more. If I say no, keep it concise, move on. So again, we understand, comfort levels with technology. We want this to truly be as simple as as humanly possible. Photos, notes, voice to text works very well here on our mobile app. And then just capturing some signatures, use your finger, that sort of thing, or a stylist. And you do have the ability to email forms to customers if they want to receive a PDF file on something that they're signing, they absolutely can. So that's a little bit about filling out a form on the mobile app. Once I hit submit, I'm brought to the final screen now where I can potentially, for time and materials, for example, maybe the customer is going to sign off. I can send the customer an email with all of the information on the Site Diary, my signature, the customer's signature here, and then we just go ahead and hit submit. And just like that, now I have filled out my timesheets for my crews, all the other information I need on the site diary, and my required forms for the day. So I get the green check marks here, letting me know, kind of comfort-wise, you're done. You're done. Job is done. You can go home for the night, sort of thing. So that's a little bit about the Assignar mobile app here, what it looks like a day in the life of being a worker in the field, submitting timesheets and forms back to the office. When you submit that site diary, it goes to 2 different places within Assignar operations. The full site diary itself is here as a daily report. A lot of our customers, and we'll get into this, we use this as an attachment to your invoices to help back up the line items and the dollar values there. This is a daily report here where I can see a total summary of hours. I can see the weather conditions. In this particular case, it's very legible, easy to read. I have 1,000 cubic yards of earthwork. I laid 150 feet of pipe. The notes, the photos are very organized. It's very easy to understand. Other systems will add all the photos to the last page, and it's tough to kind of make heads or tails of, which is what there. Here's an example of a crew that split their time between excavation and pipe, so I can see a summary of my hours. I can see if there was equipment here on the job, comments, all that fun stuff that you fight, through for accurate payroll hours, communicated directly from the mobile app. Materials, if you need them, tied to cost codes and the job. Notes and photos, no limit to the amount you can take here as far as these reports. We discuss those additional questions, and then your signatures and customer signatures. So the daily site diary itself is here. 2 mouse clicks away from making it a PDF, easily can be added to invoices, especially in Assignar Pay, which I'll touch on again in a moment. Each of the individual timesheets within the site diary also make their way to the final screen here within operations, which is the dedicated review and approval area. So this is a list of timesheets that came in from yesterday from my crew. We will align this with your pay period. So if you folks pay weekly, bi-weekly, whatever that is, will be an exact match there. You can see the same level of detail that we just saw throughout our site diaries here on our individual timesheets. You will have the ability to come in and edit and adjust things. If they're wrong from the field and you got to get payroll out the door, you can absolutely do that. And then the last thing I'll point out here is overtime rules. If you have one set of overtime rules, if you have a job that has a specific set, there's no limit. We can set up whatever detail you need to. A lot of our customers will run their overtime rules as part of their timesheet review and approval process, ironing things out tied to your specific earn codes for regular time, overtime, and double time. If that serves you an advantage to feed your payroll system, let's get this thing as accurate as possible before we do so. So at this point, you have a couple of options. We've submitted, reviewed, and approved timesheets from operations. You can export them here to a CSV file that can be used to directly feed your ERP, your payroll system, or in an environment where Assignar Pay and Assignar operations are side by side, we can bring these timesheets within Pay and then apply our rates to then be added to an invoice. And that's what I'm going to show you last here. So that's Assignar operations. Again, if you guys have questions about workflows or specific needs or requirements, please let us know, and let's jump in and set up a call here to kind of dive in together. As I bounce back now to the Assignar Pay side, we've submitted information and data from site diaries and timesheets. We're now back here within Assignar Pay, and we have a very parallel timesheet screen here like you just saw within operations, where we can import the timesheets directly over from Assignar, or they can be imported from a CSV if you're using standalone. When I click the import button here, you're just choosing your pay period or a date range. We have a switch here that is only fetch approved timesheets just to help with that, checks and balances in that approval process. And we can even bring over both material and equipment information that was part of the field data that was captured as well, all to match up invoice rates to add that, for your billing purposes. So what you would do here is you would first fetch the timesheets, and then you would select an entire batch and you would process your schedule of rates. So if I had timesheets across 5 different jobs and 3 different customers, we could accurately match up those rates to any combination of timesheets. And then what that ultimately looks like is something like this. So here's a timesheet that came over from Monday from the operations side. I can see the total hours, the project that it's for, the order from operations. It's now taken my hours and broken them up from normal time to overtime, 8 and 2, and it's equated dollar values or charge rates that are directly matched from the documentation that we imported within the schedule of rates module. I can see a summary breakdown explaining exactly what it did, how did it come up with those rates, and then it gives me an overall confidence. In this case, it assumed foreman meant supervisor from my rate sheet, so it's 95% confident, not 100% confident. So again, trust but verify. AI as a co-pilot does the heavy lifting, but it still requires human interaction, to verify, view, and potentially make changes before you ultimately invoice. So that's just an example of a timesheet that's had the rates applied. And then if I go all the way down here now to our final invoices screen, when you're generating your invoices here, first of all, we have, aging reports, things like that we can run. We have different statuses of your invoices as well. So just different filtering options that can help you here, depending on what you're looking for. And I do believe we're even right now enhancing and adding, more of a filtering and searching capability in here as well. If I look at something that's from the other day here, I have an invoice that I created on Monday to show you kind of the end result. Here's details that came over from timesheets and a very detailed view. In this case, I'm showing a very detailed breakdown of each type of worker, regular time and overtime, again, with the pricing and the rates that came directly over from our rate sheets. I see equipment hours and time in here as well with my charge rates. I see materials, and the source of that was all Assignar timesheets from the operations side. So this is an example of sort of the end result here. How did we get here? I can use these buttons to add worker and equipment time, for example, and this is going to show me now all of the open non-invoice timesheets for that customer and project combination. So flexibility, we have had a lot of conversations recently, and there's a lot of different needs depending on the customer, the scope of work, the nature of your job. Well, we have out-of-the-box options here as to how simple or how detailed you're displaying your line items and your pricing. Happy to discuss these with you, and if you need another option or two, let us know, and we'll go back to the team and see what we can incorporate. But if I were to show you like a detailed example here, you can see for each worker, it breaks down regular time, overtime, travel allowance, meal allowance, very granular, a lot of details. Some of your customers from a billing or invoicing perspective may require more of an itemized list here. We can be very simple and just do more of a summary here as well. So it's just taking everything and lumping over normal time, overtime, and additional charges together. Much less detail, but sometimes the customers appreciate the simplicity. So we got some options here. And if you need more, again, happy to have those conversations and happy to jump in. So that's basically what I had planned to show here today. Again, to showcase Assignar operations and Assignar pay side by side, to really bring finance, and the day-to-day operations together within one umbrella. I hope you guys have seen the power that can be leveraged between the two sides, and how we can just take a lot of the manual effort, a lot of the manual heavy lifting, leverage AI to again, just streamline that workflow and put some time back in your pocket for you. So, Matt.
Excellent work there, Anthony. Excellent work. If you want to stop sharing your screen, I'm going to pull open a slide so everyone can scan if they want to submit any questions, if they haven't done so already.
Did I stop sharing? I think I did.
Yeah, we're
all right, cool.
Perfect. Bob, did we have any questions come in while we were presenting?
There are some questions here. If there anyone
All
else,
right.
if you'd like to submit a question, you can use the chat feature to submit a question. Or if you prefer, you can unmute yourself, state your name and company, and ask the question directly. Please remember to remute yourself after you finish. Here's the first question. What are some common problems that Assignar fixes for customers?
Yeah, I think a really easy way to think about it is there's a lot of disconnected workflows or manual workflows that you have once you win a bid and it's time to hit production. I hear we save a lot of time just because of communication. I hear that people have to send multiple text messages, hundreds of text messages in a day just to coordinate what's going on in the field. And then I hear another one about like how the finance teams have to put on their Sherlock Holmes hat and really become a detective of the field work being completed, and then get on the phone and talk to whomever completed the job of saying, did you work 8 hours? Did we actually complete this work? Okay, great. I have to update our invoice. Anthony, what would your answer be there?
Those are great examples. I mean, I would probably say 3 or 4 times already this week I've heard they select the wrong job on their timesheets. They add the wrong job number in their forms. We remove that by you clicking on the job that you're scheduled as opposed to the potential for human error. And then just missing paperwork. The required form feature just helps kill two birds with one stone, clean things up, and just solve the low-hanging fruit right off the bat with that requirement. So,
Yeah,
cool. There's probably a dozen or so more that we could come up with that are pretty much across the board.
right.
Here's the next question. Does the mobile app work on tablets as well? And is there an offline mode?
Yeah, I'll let
So
Anthony speak to that.
yeah. So yes and yes on that. The mobile app can be used on tablets as well. So Android or Apple devices, phone or tablet. And we do have full-blown offline mode capabilities. So you can use it completely independent of a cellular or internet connection. We have mining companies that are a half mile on the ground that work all day, even all week, without a connection. Once you do have service or hit Wi-Fi, it automatically syncs all of your data with the dashboard. There's no VPN to connect to or any kind of hoop to jump through. It's very simple and very seamless.
Are there any other questions? Here's one. How does Assignar Pay connect to Assignar Operations? Can it be used as a standalone tool if we already have operations software?
Yeah, so we sort of touched on this in the beginning, but Assignar Pay does directly connect to Assignar Operations, and we pull all of the data back and forth that is needed. So your job list, your customer list, your cost codes, your materials, workers, all of that is going to be an exact match between the two systems as you're sending information back and forth. And absolutely, Assignar Pay is designed like intentionally for either scenario, to be a standalone or to be directly linked to your operations. So we can talk about the easiest way, CSV imports, more of an integration to get information in and out if you're not using operations, but absolutely with or without operations, that's how we designed Assignar Pay.
Are there other questions? How easy is it to create a new work order in the scheduler?
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I didn't, I could have spent all day here just on scheduling. We can make that process of creating a work order and schedule very easy. During the implementation process, we're going to talk about work order templates that's going to find your sweet spot for you based on your average crew size, what is the makeup of that crew and things like that. So you're not building those work orders, rarely if ever, from scratch. So if we find that combination of templates, it gives you a starting point and you just make the adjustments job over job. So definitely something we'll talk about during implementation and training.
Here's another question. I hope I say this correctly. How does the extensibility look for export to payroll and ERPs?
Okay, so you have some options, and this again, if this is sort of a deeper question, I'm happy to take this offline and dive in further. You have options. If you're using just Assignar Operations, We can export information to a CSV file. We can do it from Assignar Pay as well. We have integration partners, which we can electronically send information back and forth, and we can talk through those scopes there. We have an open API as well if you're really looking for more of a technical solution there. So it depends, I guess, on how technical, how involved, what the volume is, that sort of thing. But again, more than happy to vet that out and scope that out and go through our options with you.
Are there other questions? Here's another one. Does Assignar Pay replace my ERP and accounting system?
Short answer there is
I wouldn't
no.
say it's we're absolutely not trying to replace your ERP. We're really just trying to strengthen your financial department as it relates to like your field data collection as well. So think of this as like a tool that you'd be leveraging to assist alongside an ERP. Sorry to cut you off there, Anthony.
No, you said it as well, if not better than I would have said it. So excellent.
Let's do another question. They show up. Why do companies decide to partner with Assignar?
I don't want to take a cop out and say there's a lot of different reasons. I think if you boil it down to it, people are trying to do simple things in a simple way. And 20 years ago, these workflows were created and these job roles were created. And all of a sudden, the industry evolves up into a point to where you realize, hey, pen and paper isn't cutting it for me. The whiteboard the size of my house isn't cutting it for me. The 15 Google Sheets or Excel documents that we're leveraging isn't good enough for my financial department. So I think we see it in a couple different ways. A company grows and these stretch marks, they create these giant pain points that makes everyone's lives harder. And then we see other companies knowing like they're about to take on some big bids, big projects. They know they're about to scale. And quite frankly, they can't scale at the pace of all these disconnected systems or manual processes. So in a nutshell, it's like really to make your life easier, to kind of help you, the hard work is done in the trenches. The hard work is done with your hands. But what we're seeing is that a lot of people are working too hard to collect the money or collect the information that they've already done. Yeah, different answer there, Anthony?
No. The other thing that comes to my mind is consolidating systems. Like Matt, you talked. Like I got a whiteboard for this. I have a spreadsheet for this. I have a mobile app for timekeeping. I got 3 different things I use to fill out forms. Too many apps, too many logins. Consolidating things into one operations side is usually a big initiate. It's a goal for a company. Is again to have less software to log into, and that's where we come into play.
Bob, if I could even just add on to that, we get great reviews from our mobile product. The field loves leveraging our mobile application because it's simple and easy to use. We know that if it takes you longer than 20 to 30 seconds to do something on your phone, that phone is getting thrown back into the truck. So we have a field first mentality when it comes to innovating with anything that the team is going to get their hands on.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, thank you everyone for your questions. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. We're getting close to the hour. I want to thank Anthony and Matthew for their time today to present this information to our webinar guests. Today's webinar has been recorded. A recording of this webinar will be made available on NUCA's YouTube channel over the next few days. And thank you for your time today to join us for their special industry webinar and for supporting NUCA. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and please enjoy the rest of your week.